at revolution.radio, freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history.
General Homer, you've got to get us out of here now! I won't let you down. I won't let you down, son.
Revolution.
Hey, and good morning. This is Morning Coffee Rant with Dan. Today is February 27th in the year of all of us, 2025. And I have a 13-point sort of presentation, I guess I'm going to make today. And there's really more than 13 points on how to be a better man in 2025. Now, this most certainly can apply to women, actually, when I look at this list. It very, 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 very well could. I'm probably going to do one of my own podcasts pretty soon because I really, really, really feel like going on a rant. And I often use street language because all people understand street language. Now, with my background, I've done presentations and training, at hospitals, even for doctors and, high ranking administrative staff in government agencies. As a cop, I've been to court. I've testified in federal court, at the grand jury, and other things. So I have the capacity to drop $5 words almost with the best of them. But not everyone will understand that, to be honest with you. And I'm trying not to. If it sounds like I'm talking like Captain Kirk, it's because I'm trying not to completely explode on the radio and emotionally vomit all over everybody who's listening, over anyone who's listening. As a quick story, when I worked in the prison, there's inmates in segregation. That's like the prison within the prison. You might have heard it on TV called or referred to as the hole. Inmates would get thrown in the hole, which is just separation from the rest of the inmates for breaking institutional laws or policies, rules, regulations, whatever. And we had this one inmate who was on he was on a hunger strike. And every meal, they get 3 meals a day, 3 hots on a cot. And every meal that he would refuse, we would have to document, like a form we had to fill out, and we have to document wasn't why he wasn't eating. And this is just an example I use is interpersonal communication. This was a person from the street, kind of grew up in the hood like I did, but even in one of the worst hoods, there was probably only one neighborhood in the Cleveland area worse than where I grew up, and he grew up in that one. So I went up to him, and I was, being witty, and I will just say his name is Mr. Smith. And I was like, Mr. Smith, why is it you are refusing to partake in LORCI's Fine Nutritional Program today? And he looked at me confused and said, huh? And I was like, why the F ain't you eating? And then he went on to tell me his entire life story. So sometimes we have to know who we're communicating to, and we have to communicate to the lowest common denominator, and that doesn't mean the lowest intelligent person, because there's lots of holistically common sense driven, highly intelligent people out there who don't have the memorization of a college education to throw $5 words at people. In fact, doing so can come across as very disingenuous. Okay, very disingenuous. So, I've talked about politics and I've talked about things going on in the world, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom, which is hard. There's a lot of things coming up. I think March is going to be a very tumultuous month. A very tumultuous month. And, China, their military has announced it is prioritizing combat readiness by April. They want to keep everybody vibrating in a state of fear. This is what they want to do. Vibrate in a state of fear, shame, and frivolous anger, not righteous anger. See, I am currently righteously angry with somebody who had the audacity to want an apology for me getting mad at them for something they did very bad. It's like if someone who wants an apology because you got angry at them screwing you over. We've all had this in our lives. I don't like to throw around Facebook psychology, but there is a time where you have to set healthy boundaries. Or as I used to say back in the day, check an MFer. So these are unfortunately people in your life that you love. Many times they're family. And you still got to know when to cut them loose. Otherwise, they will keep you in that trauma drama loop, man. And you don't want that. That's not shit you want. But what's going on in the world today is not human driven, in my opinion. Listen to some of David Icke's work. Understand that as a species, we are not, and I'm going to keep driving this home, adhering to the laws of the universe, the natural laws that govern human consciousness and that govern karma. We will face our own karma, and it is nuanced. But your actions is what creates the most karma, good or bad. It's completely neutral. It's non-man made. It's made by God. It cannot be changed. It's inherent. It's just as real as gravity. And as long as we, as a species, allow violence and the victimization of others to go unchecked, we're going to always get what we've always gotten. And I've seen that in smaller, nuanced ways in my own life, in circles of dysfunction that I've had. But I have fixed those things. And you have to look in the mirror. And shadow work has to be done. It is a garden you have to go back to. And shadow work is bringing to the light of consciousness that which is unconscious, that which you don't like about yourself, that which you maybe didn't know you were doing. Maybe someone else points something out to you. The 5 hardest words to say in any human language. I was wrong, I'm sorry. Just doesn't seem to occur very often, and it needs to be done in the world. You know, with that said, I want to say that revolution.radio is the #1 listener supported platform in the world. I'm very happy to be on revolution.radio because I never know who I'm going to reach. I might reach somebody who's like, hey, let's find out more about this guy. I wrote 2 books, Violence and Ego and Rise from Darkness. They can be found on Amazon. Just type in those names and type in Daniel Arnold. On YouTube, you can type in Spiritual Anarchist, Daniel Arnold, and you'll find my YouTube page that they haven't taken down yet. My YouTube page, my Facebook page, you can end up getting all these other links through my YouTube page. But if you have a little extra to donate to revolution.radio, go to the donations tab, Freedom Slips. They also have a Patreon page. That's how they keep us all, on the air. And there's a lot of conspiracy analysts like me on revolution.radio who see through the 2-party paradigm for what it is. We really are critical thinkers. And I'm seeing the same cognizant dissonance in my right-wing friends as I've seen in my left-wing friends. Today's a happy day. I'm glad the sun's out. I have hope. And they're making these posts, and they're not paying attention to what's really happening, and they're going to be in shock. I had somebody tell me that Biden wouldn't allow drilling in the Gulf of Mexico and wouldn't allow it to be changed, the name to be changed, and blah, blah, blah. But if they change it to the Gulf of America, then we can do, oil drilling and, this and that. And I just love voters because they want to give up all their personal responsibility and allow themselves to be enslaved. Okay. I want to make myself really clear here when I say that. The quote unquote Gulf of Mexico is an effing body of water. That's it. Nikola Tesla, a century ago, wanted to give us all free energy, and the government, I'm not going to delineate between political party, had his property raided and all that stuff confiscated. We can have free energy right now. But mammon is the god of this world. Money, the one eye, is the god of this world. People make money and get rich off of our fear, off of our pain. They're parasites. Only lunatics get into politics, and all ticks are parasites. The system is set up in such a way where the funeral industry is even in with the pharmaceutical industry and the so-called medical industry. They make money off of our pain. They make money off of our fear. If you're a more imbalanced person, you're not going to be in fear. Or you won't let fear stop you. So let me take a sip of my coffee. Something else that I really need to be clear about, and you need to do your own research here. Don't believe anything I ever say. I even tell you that in my books when I'm talking about self-defense and manipulators and different martial arts techniques, different concepts. You could learn a technique and one technique. But if you learn a concept, you could know 100 techniques. across spanning several disciplines. I have a concept that I use that works when I had a knife, a stick, a gun, or my empty hands, because that's a concept. But you don't have to believe me. You just research on your own. What's happening now in the world is not biblical prophecy. My friends out there who believe in the bearded guy in the desert sky, it's not biblical prophecy. Those prophecies were written and those books were changed and they were handed down to a primitive, superstitious man by extraterrestrial beings who live a long time. And they knew they could make the things that are happening today happen. I mean, it's that simple. You have to at least consider that. You don't have to accept what I'm saying. That's my theory based on research. Yes, that's a theory. Yeah, I don't hyphenate theory and conspiracy. That's a theory based on research and just what I would call mirroring up, the sacred masculine and sacred feminine. Sacred masculine be research, the sacred feminine is intuition. You come to a hypothesis based on things you take in. And my theory is if I was an extraterrestrial who lived forever or very long lived, and I knew I wanted to do a certain thing, 2,000 years is like 2 days to a human being. They can arrange for these things to occur. Okay? People don't want to accept that there's beings that run this world that are not seen. You're some kind of strange conspiracy theorist when you tell them that. But simultaneously, they believe in the bearded man in the desert sky who is also not seen. So take that as you will. The left and the right like to point out contradictions about each other. And here's one thing I'll say. I'm in complete agreement with them both. Until contradictions are healed within belief systems, we are not going to ever change as a society, as a world. I'm okay with having a one world civilization. I just don't want a one world government where you have a ruling class, where you have house slaves who are the enforcement class, and you have the field slaves, which is the rest of us. No human being has a right to rule another human being, which is why I'm not into the Constitution. I didn't need those rights written down on a piece of paper. They're already my rights. They're inherent in my creation, and they're inherent in your creation. Period. Full effing stop. So, hold on a second. With that being said, I'm going to go through this list. And I'm almost wondering if I should go through the list or if I should go through the add-ons to the list, because I added some other things onto the list. It's really like a 17 or 18 point list. But initially it was a 13-point list on how to become a better man. And in 2025, this is especially important. The first thing on the list, no porn. Cut out porn. I'm not going to get into a long thing about that. I've been in long things about that before. I'm not going to get into the spiritual aspect of it and the possibility that it is the inversion of love. Everyone's got different beliefs, and there's nothing really wrong with it. People have used it to spice up their relationship, and if you're not viewing the victimization of anybody, have at it. I'll just keep it simple, stupid. It very well could be a spoke on the wheel of evil. And just like Facebook and Twitter and every other 2D screen, it's meant to keep us distracted. And The things on it aren't healing. And they actually could be mind controlling to a great degree. So get off of it. You know, this probably is more for men than women, but women too. I've heard women say all men look at porn. No, we all have at one point or another, maybe, but we all don't do it on a regular basis. And you can't blame just men, because if that's what you're going to say, women are the ones making it. So they're doing it for money. Supply and demand. This is where we want to point the finger outward instead of looking at ourselves. And again, if it turns into an addiction, it has to be brought to the conscious light of your consciousness if it's something unconscious. I've probably been back to it maybe a dozen times in the last, I don't know, half a decade, browsed. If you've got a problem, a coping mechanism, if you're an alcoholic, and there's been times where I drank more than I should have, but I've never really had a problem with that. But if you are an alcoholic and you've had a problem with it, these are demons that can come back, and you don't want them to. When you start to get control and conscious control over it, go to a bar, have a ginger ale or something, order something to eat, sit there, and leave. Don't drink. Now you've got control over that vice. I talked about the 7 deadly sins last week, that at the best, they're warning against excess. Too much of anything is bad for you. You got a gambling problem, go to the casino or to the horse races. Don't bet on nothing. Again, have a meal, sit there, hang out for a bit and leave. Have control over it. So that's the number one thing. Something that I noticed during all this scamdemic stuff that's gone on, at least in the greater Cleveland area, our food prices have gone up just like everyone else's. Our gas prices have gone up just like everyone else's. But you know what hasn't gone up that much? Bombay Sapphire, Guinness, and a whole slew of other alcoholic beverages. They kept that stuff pretty reasonably priced. Let's just put it to you that way. Alcohol in excess is bad for you. It will lower your consciousness. I know this. I tried to go back to sleep once I was awakened to what was really happening in the world, and it didn't work. I couldn't drink myself back to sleep, so I stopped. Now, those who smoke pot, there's a lot of potheads out there, and it's medicine. I get it. They do it in the right mindset, in the right way, for the right reasons, but there's a dark side to it. Pot can also be an addiction. People do it to lose themselves. Pot will make you lazy. Pot will make you not care about anything. It's got its downfalls too. You'll get maybe just a little bit too chill, right? Jimi Hendrix never started a fight. Drunks, on the other hand, do start a lot of fights. You got to be careful with all the stuff. Anything in excess can be bad for you. That's what the 7 deadly sins were about when I talked about those last week. They're also about control. You know, I said last week, Egypt, 25 miles north of Cairo, Nahamagi. I think that's how it's pronounced. I mispronounced where the Gnostic scrolls were found. But I just lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens. I talked about the 7 deadly sins and how they wouldn't have to have the saying church and state if the church and state weren't, in fact, very intricately intertwined. There wouldn't be a saying separation of church and state. Because I said religion and state last week. It's church and state was the saying. I figured I'd correct myself on that. So the second point on this list is 3 liters of water per day. So 2 liters of water a day on days you don't work out, that's 64 ounces of water. That's like 8 ounce glasses of water is what they recommend. You don't want to drink it too fast all at one time. You can get water toxicity. There's problems with that too. But on a regular day, if you're not exercising, you probably should have somewhere between now, say 7 and 8 glasses of water a day, close to 64 ounces. Now, if you exercise at a moderate level, use 3 liters. If you're exercising hard, it probably should be 4 or more liters per day. Hydration is very important. And what's coming up in the world, some of the things I want to shift to is more about self-help. That's, good. And not just talk about the fear stuff, not just talk about what's going on. Because as soon as someone starts talking about politics, you're going to lose half of who you're listening to, no matter what. No matter what. And I'm going to just say, no matter what, we got stuff coming. And I'm not saying this from a conspiratorial mindset. Forget conspiracy theories, forget critical thinking. Let's just look at mainstream news media, which you probably shouldn't watch a lot of, but just look at it. You can think it's biblical prophecy or not. It doesn't matter. You could think it's slavery and greed. You could think this is just how the world's always been. But what you'll see on the news is weather anomalies and directed energy weapons. No, we'll just call them weather anomalies. What we see in the skies, conspiracy theorists will say chemtrails, cloud seeding, DARPA, weather control. We just got some weird, bad weather going on all over the world. That's all. We can keep it simple, stupid. The KISS principle in the military. The world is a very tumultuous place right now. We're on the brink of World War III. This is a fact. This is not nothing that no one doesn't know. I think we got a lot of people with their blinders on in this country. And they know bad stuff's coming. They just kind of hope that it doesn't. So we have to just look at what's going on and some of the things I want to shift towards, because I think these things are going to come to pass regardless. The bad guys, the evil in this world, are working together very well. And there are different groups of evil. All those groups are working together to get to the same point, and then they'll fight it out at the end. Hopefully they destroy one another. But anyway, 3 liters of water. And besides that, have a way of filtering water, making a fire boiling water. These are important things for survival, and you can YouTube those things. If you're going to be stuck on a 2D screen, use some of that time to research and read. Number 3 on this list that I have here is meditation. Let me take a sip of my water. I believe it's the theta waves in the brain. You can change those by getting up in the morning and what do they call it? Let me think. There was a name for it. We had an acronym for it in yoga teachers training. I don't never do this, so I'm being a terrible teacher right now. But I will admit my hypocrisy, and I will admit my stuff when I do it. But I'm almost like from the movie Thor: Love and Thunder. Meditation makes me angrier sometimes. Okay, but no, in all seriousness, when I have meditated even 5 minutes a day, and I usually find the time to meditate 7 to 10 minutes a day, because what you're looking for in that meditation is you're looking for that dead time. You're looking to make 10 minutes feel like, wow, I was only meditating for like 2 minutes. You want it to feel like it's only 2 or 3 minutes. That's when you're finding the no mind, or the mushin, as the Japanese refer to it, no-mindedness, where you turn off your monkey brain a little bit. So meditation does help. I do it weekly, not daily. I'm going to work on getting to a daily habit of this. That's why it's on this list. It's very healthy for you, but don't let it take up all your time. See, I made the mistake because of the satanic mission to influence the New Age community, which includes the yoga community, I threw out the baby with the dirty bathwater. When I seen supposedly spiritual yoga teachers and people telling you, no, you got to stand 1 foot over. You're not exactly behind the line that we put down to keep you 6 feet apart. It was about obedience and control. That's not a spiritually awoken person to me. Just like it's impossible to me to be a spiritually awakened person and vote. They just don't go together. Makes no sense. But meditation is good. Yoga is good. And I do get back to that stuff now a little more. I'd thrown it out, but I've been back at it. And I got a couple of yoga instructors, and they're both ladies. They're both females. And they kick my butt. And for a guy my size, around 220 pounds, 5'11", I got a little bit of weight to lose. But I'm pretty good at yoga. It helped. It's physical therapy. They kick my butt. You ladies, you know who you are. You're tough. And I love you both. So meditate. The next thing, and I already alluded to this, the next thing, the number 4th thing on this list is read daily. Read daily. We're not looking at our newspapers anymore in the morning. We're looking at a news feed. Look at your browser a little bit before you hit YouTube, or before you hit Facebook, or before you hit, what's being said on X. The stuff on there is just distraction, tainment, and ridiculousness anyway. But read books. Doesn't matter what kind of reading. When I was a kid, and it's, my mom's not doing real well. She's got Alzheimer's. It's very hard to see somebody decline like that, especially as smart as she was and how she had gotten herself together. But when I was a kid, I read comic books. Comic books was a gateway to my literacy, because I come across a word in the comic book that I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't have Google. I had Mom. I'd go ask her what it meant, and she always knew what it meant. So read daily. It doesn't matter if it's fiction or not, man. Read daily. It really does help. And I'm starting to get nearsighted as I get older. What I have noticed is if on a bright sunny day, I sit outside with my book or paper or magazine, I can literally read without glasses. That's weightlifting for your eyes. It's what it really is. It'll help strengthen and improve your eyesight. Try it sometime. Okay? I got that from Michael Tillinger, Slave Species of the Gods, which is a really great book to read. And I've done it ever since. And this was 2019 when I read it, and he was right. So read daily. The next item on this list, avoid sugar. Sugar is it's one of the most addictive substances out there. Natural sugars that come in fruit, a banana, an orange, arugula, whatever it is you're doing, a peach, 1 or 2 of those a day, probably good for you. Natural sugar. It's God's candy. There's no ailment or nutrient that the human being needs that we have not been blessed with on this planet. Which reminds me of something that I'm going to add to the list right now that wasn't on this list. Gratitude. No matter how bad things have gotten for me, I've always managed to, when I pray, which is sort of a prayer / meditation at the same time, is to actually have gratitude for what I have. And I'm human. There's been times I've fallen into these little times of self-pity. If you don't say you've never had that, you're effing lying. But how long do you stay in it? Don't stay in it. Have gratitude. Gratitude's the way out of self-pity. Even if you have to write down 3 things per day you're grateful for, do it. The next thing on this list, high protein. High protein. Let me take another sip of my coffee. You want high protein, and for people like I'm like a fishitarian. I started off, I did some vegan stuff. It didn't work. I was a vegetarian for a real long time. I went back to meat a couple times for health reasons, because of a problem in my spine. I'm not going to get into personal things like that, but I have settled in pretty strongly at being a fishitarian, and you can get a lot of protein from that. And I'm working at maybe going back to full vegetarian. But here's the thing: there's a lot of things in nature, lentils, avocados. If you do decide to become a vegetarian, you're going to be able to still find protein. There's protein supplements, protein powders, vegetable based. Uh, every once in a while, I'll treat myself to some type of like near burger or something like that. Not Bill Gates nonsense, but the other ones that are out there. But you can still get high protein. High protein is important. You want to cut out the simple carbs. This next one's a big one. Exercise daily. Exercise daily. I've only been able to really find true meditation in movement. So I exercise at least 5 times a week. On many weeks, I'm exercising 8 times a week, 9 times a week. Not always hard anymore. Sometimes it's light. We all have to train within our capacity, but get moving, even if it's just to go for a walk. Get your heart rate up. A good measure of your health is to know how to calculate what your target heart rate is and what your maximum target heart rate is. 220 minus your age is your maximum target heart rate. So get your heart rate up and then practice and see how quickly you can get your heart rate down. And a good way to do that too is if you, on the outside of your meaty portion of your thumb, you can put your 2 fingers there and you could feel your pulse. If you're a grown up, if you're an adult, you've probably done this. And I got a really, really steady, strong sinus rhythm, as they call it, going on with my heart rate right now. So it's good. I'm not actually ranting. If I sit here for 10 seconds and count how many times it beats for 10 seconds and times that times 6, I can get a fairly accurate heartbeat per minute reading. So after I've done some type of exercise, or after you do some type of exercise and you say your heart rate's up to 140 beats per minute, see how long it takes for your body to recover back down below 100 beats per minute. Because the faster you recover is a sign of better health, better cardiovascular health. Avoid junk food. Okay, avoid potato chips. I could be a vegetarian and eat potato chips. I could be a vegetarian and have 4-cheese pizza. Believe me, you're never going to find an overweight vegan. This is something I have to admit. You will find overweight vegetarians. So you have to avoid junk food. Know what they're putting in our food, first off. Look at the labels. Really read, research. That could be part of your reading if you're concerned about that. But this is how you become a better man or a woman. Because the better your gut health is the better your mental health will be. That's your gut instincts. That's your other brain. That's your third brain. Your heart is your second brain, your auric field. You can read somebody's energy, which is why I like to talk to people in person. Not because I'm an ex-cop who can pick up on body language better than most people, and nonverbal cues. No. Just energy. We all can feel it. For some reason, they don't want us to be in person. They want us to be on 2D screens. Think about it. But avoid junk food. Next thing I have on this list, and this is very important, start networking with people. I have had the blessings of being able to network with many people in the One Great Network in the past 3 years and have what I consider to be good friends. I've met many of them in person. That networking is important because you never know when you're going to get a tidbit of information that you didn't have before. I seen a really good interview last week, and I forgot the name of the podcast. I wish I could. Tinfoil Hats, I believe it is. They got a pretty good following, and Mark Passio was on it, and I really enjoyed the interview. I mean, he really puts that natural out there better than anybody. And it's funny because he's like the Incredible Hulk. He's got that, Dr. Banner part that's real intelligent, but he's got legendary anger. But some people don't like his anger. I was reading in the comments some of the things people were saying, and it was like, you guys are effing retards. I dug it. But not everyone's going to dig that style, which is why there is other people out there who are teaching it. It's just a small amount of people teaching karma, natural law, and true spirituality. But they teach it in different ways, and it might be in a way that's palatable to you. I've got a very angry way of teaching it at times, and teaching in general, but I don't stay there quite as long. I can't, here's the thing. Be capable of consciously going into anger and just as consciously coming out of anger. And I would submit, I believe that man can do that. So people shouldn't take it so personally. I know I don't. And I thank him and many other people for their work. But start networking, because you never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to be able to do. And, at one point in time, it's easy to, when you start the networking journey, certain people you look up to, you might be a little starstruck at first. I'm not no more. You won't be either. This is about human freedom. What I would like to say to would-be influencers out there with medium audiences, like 100,000, 200,000, maybe 50,000 or 60,000. That's a lot of followers. I only had 3,000 on Facebook before they deplatformed me in 2020 because I was speaking the truth. After I hit 2,000, I had to verify who I was because they consider you an influencer at that point on social media. So I was a drop in the bucket. But to influencers out there at that medium level, upper medium level, who've got their pages monetized, quit deleting people's comments. You've deleted my comments. I don't care. It's your page. It's your right to do whatever. But my comments are pretty righteous, and they could lead people to other information when they check out my page and see some of the stuff on my page. This is part of, in this day and age especially, networking. Our enemies are working together beautifully. It's scary how well they work together. And I still see a bunch of ego tearing the supposed good guys apart, and greed. My page isn't monetized. Quit deleting my comments. If you're listening, that's what I would say. I never make comments that are bad towards you. And there's people out there who are doing it. They'll delete comments. If they think you're an up-and-coming influencer or you're trying to be or whatever, they look at your page, they delete your comment. Get the F off that, okay? Network. This next one on my list, learn how to fight. Yes, I said fight. Learn how to fight. Learn how to use force to effectively defend yourself. The average man can fight about 80% less than what he thinks. The average man thinks they're going to lose their temper, see red, and all that anger is going to allow them to defend themselves in a fight. And dude, you're just going to be mad while you get beat up until you're unconscious. Learn how to fight. You have a responsibility as a man to protect women. I seen these and protect your family and protect yourself. I seen a meme that said, I don't protect my woman because she's weak. I protect my woman because I forgot what it said, because she's important to me or sacred to me or whatever. And because she's weaker than you, dude. And the man that would attack her, she's not going to be able to fight off. And all those other good reasons also. Yes, because she's important. I would surmise that the Godhead is also feminine. There's male and there's masculine and feminine aspects in everything. This is in Hermetic principles. No one wants to have that conversation. that Mary Magdalene was one of Jesus' main teachers because she was a high priestess. Can't have a woman in that high of a position. Men have the capacity to use force to move more weight because we're stronger, but we have a lesser pain tolerance than women. We're not as naturally flexible, and we don't normally have their intuition or many of the other traits that men actually really need. A woman could sometimes set a man straight in a way that a man just not going to be able to because of ego. So good women can have good influences on good men. So this isn't anything, against that, but learn how to fight, man. Go take some, and my book, Violence and Ego, is all about finding a martial arts instructor who's balanced, who isn't full of themselves. I've told my students back in the day when I really wasn't doing jiu-jitsu, and I wasn't very good at jiu-jitsu back then, and I jokingly say my jiu-jitsu is trash, but compared to your average person, I'm like one of the Gracies. I'm a 4-stripe blue belt. I'd probably be that for a long time before I get my purple, but I've been rolling for a while. My stand-up grappling is at a black belt judo level. Ask anybody who's randoried with me, they'll tell you. I'm not easy to take down, and I can take other people down fairly easy. I'm not talking Olympic level, but I've trained. Train. You have to train at it. I would send students to real jiu-jitsu schools because I didn't want to just teach them my version of what I called shit-jitsu back in 2005. And they come back to me with some stuff, and guess what I did? I joined the jiu-jitsu school too. So you have to find an instructor who is more interested in your growth than their own, and more interested in helping you than showing you how awesome they are. Okay, that's important because there's a lot of guys out there who are egotistical teachers. But learn how to fight. Look up my book, Violence and Ego. That's a good start. There's drills in it, and there's concepts in it. Learn the concepts. This next one is really important. Take cold showers. On a spiritual level, if I say a prayer and I have an ice cold shower and I let the cold water hit me, there's a spiritual aspect in that to me, a cleansing aspect. But that aside, it really has physical, it helps your hair, it helps your skin, it helps with inflammation. It creates an immune response that's good for your body. You feel great. Take cold showers. A couple times a week. This next one, despite what I said earlier about just watch the news on what's going on in the world. We know crap's happening. Oh, this says quit watching the news. This is my next thing. And yes, you should quit watching the news. Don't watch it as much. All it is all they're doing is pumping out fear. If it bleeds, it reads. All they want to do is put out nonsense. Exaggerate the heck out of it. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. You're better off not even hearing what they say. But when I say quit watching the news, I don't mean completely. You should pick it up a little bit. Stay up with the times, which is easy to do on social media because people are always posting stuff. But spend less time on social media, maybe. That these 2D screens are meant to be distractions to us. They're meant to stop human contact. Okay, I'll say it again. All these screens, all these social media platforms, they're antisocial. They're meant to stop human contact. They're meant to be distractions. So try to limit your time. I got off Facebook for a while. I went back on. I only was off for like a week and a half to 2 weeks. It didn't reset nothing. I'm still buried in the feeds. Nothing's changed with free speech. So like all my friends on the right, man, I feel bad for you guys. Seriously. If I had to pick the left or the right, I'm going to go off on a quick tangent. If you put a gun to my head, you have to pick a side. I would pick the right because they want just a sliver more freedom than the left, but not by a lot from what I can see. As an objective person that's looking from the outside, it just doesn't vote. Never have. This next one is, I don't know why I put this down, but if you don't exercise, do 250 push-ups every day is what it's saying to become a better man. It is the number one best upper body exercise. If you do it, what's called in yoga, I'm going to use some Sanskrit language. It's called Uddiyana Bandha. You pull your belly button into your spine while you're doing the push-ups. You're getting a complete upper body work while you're doing the push-ups. Flex your quads. You're even getting a leg workout then. And does that mean do all 250 at once? No. Do them in sets of 10 throughout the day. Do what you can do. But that gets back into exercise daily. Have a routine. So then you think about this list, what would you add to it? Well, I wanted to add a couple things. One of the things I wanted to add to this is you have to stay out of that trauma drama loop with people who aren't healed, because they'll keep you going in the same dysfunctional circles that you've been in with them. So avoid people who are constantly in that trauma drama loop because they haven't healed their past traumas. Ladies, when you meet a new guy, I know you've been effed over before in your life. That new guy isn't your ex's. Fellas, when you meet a new gal, she's not your ex. We all bring trash into new relationships, but we shouldn't bring past trauma. We should really try to heal those traumas, or at least be honest about your trauma with somebody else. And maybe they'll be honest about theirs. Then if you can ascertain that, maybe you can ascertain honesty and what type of connection they want, because that's very important too. But the trauma drama loop, I would add that to this. Stay away from people who are always wanting to be the victim and don't want to heal their trauma. These are people that usually lack self-reflection and introspection to a great degree, actually. And sometimes they're people very close to you, unfortunately. And in the end, when I died, all that mattered was love. So it's kind of sad. But you got to put these people out of your life sometimes, or at least keep them at arm's length. The next thing I would say is quit talking to people who don't hear you, which is probably some of those trauma drama people. If they're not hearing you, quit talking to them. Quit wasting your oxygen on people in your personal life. I'll talk about natural law and freedom till I die. I don't care who listens or who doesn't. But in my personal life, people who ain't listening or don't hear me, then they won't hear my voice either, because I'm not wasting my words on them. Don't waste your words on people who don't listen. And this last one. This is the last one that I have on my list. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions. There is no growth in comfort. You have to get in uncomfortable positions, and you have to learn to be, I should say, you have to learn to try to find comfort in discomfort. Hold on a second. When I first started doing public speaking, I was very uncomfortable. First time I worked in a prison and had to speak to 200 inmates, I was uncomfortable. There's lots of things I did that made me uncomfortable. I had somebody tell me I had delusions of grandeur. No, I have PTSD from having to hug a mother after we both watched her son die. Asshole. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions. In that discomfort, you will find growth. I was uncomfortable when I started this radio show, and I had already done podcasts because it was something new. So this next coming week, put yourself in some kind of uncomfortable position and find some growth. And what would you add to this list? That'd be real interesting to hear what you would add to this list. Anyway, prayers for humanity. Stay grateful. Stay safe. Nothing but love. Peace.